Speaker. I rise today to speak against, and I strongly speak against Bill 27, the Education Statute Amendment Act. The UCP government brought forth a bill that's going to increase barriers to sex education. They're adding more red tape and asking parents to opt into sex education instead of the current process of opting out of sex education. We are all very busy parents here in the chamber, and there are many, many busy parents outside of this chamber. I reflect upon my own Sunday night prep, the crazy evening of preparing dinner, laundry being done, pets running wild, and digging out the forms from my kid's backpack to be signed. Taking the time to read through them and then signing them. My daughter does get a gold star. Hers went directly into the backpack. The boys, well, that was a different story as it ended on a different counter, and a few nags later, it made it into the backpack. I now have to hope that these forms get to their teachers. And that's the thing. The form needs to make it home. The parent needs to understand and comprehend what they're signing. But then it's got to make its way all the way back in the backpack in hopes that it'll see daylight in a hand of a teacher. I thought that right now that this was the government of red tape reduction. Currently, children have the right for information and education, and parents have the right to pull their children out of class, so why change it? There are so many reasons Albertan students should have access to sexual health education programs. First, it leads to better sexual health outcomes. It reduces the rates of sexual transmitted infections and teen births. It also leads to reduced bullying and increased appreciation of gender equality. It also decreases domestic violence. Educating young people is a long-term solution to end gender-based violence. Sex ed isn't just about sex. It is meant to promote health and the well-being of respect for human rights and gender equality. And it empowers young people to lead safe and productive lives. Sex ed is that is early, ongoing, and comprehensive is key to providing youth with the information and the skills needed to understand and prevent gender-based violence. It teaches us all forms of gender-based violence are wrong and a violation of our human rights. If our youth are not getting sex ed at schools, we all know who's actually going to be picking up the slack. The internet. How will a child know if it's wrong if they don't understand what's happening to them? Albertan children having access to sex education will promote safer and more equitable province. So why is the UCP so determined to attack kids instead of addressing real issues in our schools? I know my constituents would rather the UCP focus on addressing classroom sizes and go back to reporting on them. In Ranchlands, they would appreciate a new playground for the kids to play on during their breaks. They would rather the government hire more educational assistants to support those kiddos and their learning. But now we're putting another burden onto those teachers and the support staff. If a youth talks and shares or comes out to a teacher or an educational support person, it's because they trust them. They feel safe. It should feel like an honor for any adult, not a fear on how is the government going to rule. How are they going to, follow the government rules, but also keeping that youth safe. No child should be afraid to go to school and be around trusted adults like a teacher and worry that they're going to be outed. I would love for all kids to grow up in a supportive family home, but unfortunately not all children are provided that opportunity. Some kiddos do not have a supportive family environment at home, yet this government insists on outing kids by notifying their parents because they've asked school staff to refer to them by a new gender-related name or a pronoun. This legislation put forth will be incredibly harmful to so many youth here in Alberta. This UCP government is violating their human rights of transgender and diverse youth. Why are we denying access to crucial health care when parents are giving consent? Amanda, one of my constituents, wrote to say this about this legislation. It will actively harm kids in our community. It has been proven time and again that denying access to gender-affirming care increases the risk of suicide in young people. These decisions need to be made by individuals in discussions with their doctors, not the government. These policy changes are even making it harder for youth to have time to reflect and think about these decisions by denying their right to puberty blockers until the age of 15. Clearly a move meant to restrict them completely. This is appalling legislation, and I am ashamed to live in this province where it is being proposed. As we talk about people wanting one-on-one conversations with family doctors, I can't help but wonder how many families don't even have access to a family doctor. A family doctor that they know that they can trust and have a conversation with. When I was door knocking in Lethbridge, I was shocked at how many folks told me that they didn't even have a family doctor. And if they did, they were traveling. A young mom of 3 kids told me that she drives for 2 hours up to High River just to have a doctor's appointment. We've had our attack on doctors in this province, and now we are attacking vulnerable youth and families that love them. In my own riding of Dalhousie, when I was out door knocking during stip break, I had 2 moms crying in one afternoon on their doorsteps, begging me to stand up for their children and oppose this harmful legislation. Many, many more doors were pulled by the bullying of this government, and not once did I hear that the UCP is doing the right thing. I had so much gratitude coming home from a LRT at a trans rally in Calgary a few weeks back and seeing how many constituents had joined me and thousands of others, all of us saying, "Leave our kids alone." And to quote our leader, "When hate is loud, love must not be silent." Well, that rally was not silent. Jessie, another constituent, wrote, saying that she was also opposed to this legislation. "This is a waste of time and an infringement on the freedom you pretend to be standing for. Instead, you hypocritically lead a culture war instead of addressing the real issues that we are facing here in Alberta." Albertans want a government to address real issues here in Alberta, like affordability, housing, and not attacking people. They want a government that will take care of people during a mental health crisis, not making it worse. Lisa from Dalhousie wrote me to say, "Research shows that inclusive policies such as an access to gender-affirming health care and protection from discrimination improve mental health outcomes for transgendered individuals. In contrast, anti-trans legislation correlates with increased rates of depression, anxiety, and suicide within these communities. Alberta's legislation mirrors policies in the U.S. states that have led to substantial increases in mental health risk and suicide attempts amongst trans youth. Jurisdictions up to 72% increase their suicide attempts. We should be striving to create a supportive environment where all individuals can thrive, regardless of their gender identity. Recently, I tabled a letter from Reverend Tracy Robertson, my minister, from St. Thomas United, from my riding. She writes, "I'm a very concerned citizen of Alberta, lived here all my life, and a proud minister of an Affirming United Church. I strongly disagree with your government's plan to restrict health care to the queer community, and I'm asking you to reconsider. Action is needed now, before this legislation returns, because lives are literally at risk. What you call gender-affirming care is, for me, simply health care. And your proposal means we are ripping the basic right of health care away from the queer community. This is a targeted attack on the vulnerable population, and our government should be protecting everyone in Alberta, not implementing legislation that will harm them. What you are doing is against human rights and works in direct conflict with God's love and the care of all God's children. Gender-affirming care equals health care, period. The government has no business restricting me from the health care I need or anyone else's needs. What I discuss with my health care providers should be not be restricted, and certainly should not be banned. The decision will result in many lives being at risk, and your government will be responsible for the rise in hate crimes, self-harm, and suicide. Please reconsider." I feel so naive that I believed I live in a province where everyone wanted our kids to be safe. Over the summer, I had a beautiful opportunity to watch my daughter be so unencumbered. I turned her scene, passionately dancing and singing freely along with Pink. And it was the words, "I'm perfect, I'm so blanking perfect." And this moment will be forever in my heart, to see her get to express her true self and her confidence. I do realize I still need to talk about her language. I want to wake up where kids can be confident to who they are and be themselves. It is heartbreaking to wonder how many kids are waking up feeling unsafe and needing to hide. I want all children to be able to dance like no one is watching. No child should wake up wondering, why is their government attacking them? I appreciate the note from Veronica. This is a dangerous stunt that will continue to make our province an unsafe place for many different people. Diversity makes us strong and successful. Stay in your lane and work on everything that is actually wrong instead of harming a small percentage of our population. Further, if you continue to crack this patriarchal door open, I fear that all women in this province will be the next target of the small group of radical 1950s revolutionists. Julie also cautioned, these policies do not protect women and girls. The only women Alberta women and girls need protection from is the UCP cabinet legislating away human rights. These policies actively harm trans youth and adults and their families. These policies actively waste tax dollars on legal bills when the province is sued over and over for contravening the Charter. These policies further erode the safety of schools as places kids go to learn and be themselves. These policies will increase homelessness, and more trans youth have fewer and fewer spaces. These policies will increase the burden on the healthcare system you are dismantling and increase the backlog of people needing care. These policies will repeal qualified doctors and allied health professionals from coming to Alberta. The United Conservative policies are an infringement on autonomy of families. The government does not belong in any of our households or our doctor's offices. Families have a right to collaborate with their children and their family doctors about their health care, including gender-affirming care. The UCP is bullying transgendered and marginalized Albertans. I loved one of the T-shirts that I saw at a rally on Saturday. It says, "You will have to go through me." Well, you're going to have to go through me and all of us on this side of the House and many families and medical professionals who care about youth. So I will not be supporting Bill 27, the Education Statutes Amendment Act, and you're going to have to go through us. Yeah.